Okay, so are black men invisible to women abroad, especially in Latin American countries? We're gonna get right into it, bro. But before we get into it, if you're new to the channel, my name is John Travel Talk, and I'm going to share with you some of my own experiences with women, particularly in Guatemala, and how I feel that matches with a lot of the experiences that a lot of men are noticing in Latin American countries. Let's get something straight. White men started this shit first. They've been doing this for generations. So they had a head start. Okay. I can remember as far as like the 80s, Vietnam and all the other countries being like a place where a lot of these men would go. Ever since traveling in general has been a thing, a lot of these countries didn't really know who American men were. White men were the first ones to go out to these countries. And they are notorious for sponsoring a lot of the women out there so they can come to the States or in Europe. They are notorious for wearing their hearts in their sleeves, spoiling these girls like princesses, and bringing them to the States and giving them a whole new lifestyle. Okay? And the telenovelas, like, the soap operas out there in these countries, especially in Latin American countries, it's all white. There are no blacks in the novellas. There are no black models on the billboards. Well, maybe now, but before, no. It's mainly, women with pelo lisado, you know what I mean? They have like nice hair, straight jet black hair, you know what I mean? The diamond face. They're on magazines, they're on social media, they're influencers. Okay. And in most cases, especially with men products, like, like aftershave products and stuff, it's usually men like who are considered like Latinos, which is basically guys with like nice hair, fair skin, or white men. So white men, particularly in Latin America, and probably even in Asia and China and all other places, white men are looked at as valuable because of the reputation they've been able to develop over the years since the beginning. Okay, they're looked at as valuable. I have to paint this picture for you guys because this is going to tie into my real point. They have a reputation, so these women trust them. White guys can go to these countries and they don't even have to date these girls for 3-4 months. They get trust within the first day. They have no problems gaining the trust of most of the women in these countries. Let me share a story with you. Guatemala is big. My family is from the coast part of Guatemala. We're considered Garifunas. From where my family's from, black is appreciated. Okay, so a lot of the girls who are considered white, which is the Latinas, you got the Indígenas, which they're considered like, they have the skin complexion similar to somebody from like Trinidad, Guyana, India, or like Sri Lanka, or like, you've seen these girls. Like, they're real dark, but they have straight black hair. Very beautiful, right? They can pass off as Indians. So that's the Indígenas. And then you have the mestizos. They can practically pass as like Asian. And, their families, they wear the dresses and, they're very traditional. So for years, before black men started really traveling, it was the white men. So they've had a head start. But let me tell you this, bro. If you're a black man that wants to date, especially in Latin America, you're going to have to go into communities where black is appreciated. Now, my family, we're Garifuna, and there are people who are lighter than me, and there are people who are much darker than me. And bro, especially during like November, like we call it Dia de Garifuna, and like Semana Santa, which is like in March, April-ish, bro, the people from the city come to that part of town. It's called Livingston. And our family, we call it La Buga. People from all around, not just the city side in the tourist towns, but people from all over the world, they come out there and as soon as they arrive, bro, they're getting trenzas, they're getting long braids. Okay, they're getting these fake dreads with the hat and everything, and they be down for the culture. You're gonna have to go into places where black is appreciated, because if you step off and you decide to date in, you know, the tourist towns like Antigua, Guatemala, it is overran. When I went back in 2021, bro, it is overran with a lot of dudes, a lot of young dudes from Europe and from the States who are white. And when I tell you that I was practically invisible, at least to the girls that I wanted to date, I was getting flakes. I was getting a lot of numbers, but I was getting flakes. Okay. I was getting ghosted. Right. And then I would see those same chicks with white dudes, maybe the night after or maybe the week after. So, and it was overran by them. And I was considered a minority, me and my twin brother. And it was like maybe 2 or 3 other black guys out there, bro. But it's like when you're the minority in the town, that does you more bad than good. Okay, because women in general out in these countries do not trust black guys. They don't trust black because of the negative connotation they've received in the media. And it doesn't help that anytime they talk about black people, they're talked about in this negative way, like we're gangsters or, you know, we're real delinquents. Okay. But yo, when Swale and Will Smith went to Guatemala, they went nuts. All right. And I know I'm kind of trailing off, but this is just to paint a picture, because if you date in the city parts of any of these countries, especially in Latin American countries, you're going to be met with a lot of frustration, because a lot of the women are not going to know who you are. Number one. Number two, your skin color. If your skin color does not match their prototypical type, they won't even look at you. It doesn't matter how good you dress. It doesn't matter how good you smell. It doesn't even matter if you know the language. You're going to be met with a lot of frustration and colorism. All right, I experienced this too. Like where I was trying to, there was an after party spot. It was like a bar that was open past the after hours, and out there, if they were found to be open by the police, they were gonna get fined. But it was an after hours spot, and me and my twin brother were walking there, and the guy there was like, "Oh, estamos cerrado." I was like, "Yo, y'all open?" He was like, "No, estamos cerrado." So, bro, there were 2 white guys, like right across from me, and like 2 girls walking towards the guy, and I see him signaling them to come in and go inside the bar. And then 2 other people walked in, and I was like, "Wait, but you guys are letting these people in?" He's like, "No, estamos cerrados." And I was like, "Yo, do you have tienes un problema con el color de mi piel?" He was like, "No, somos iguales." But no, I was like, "No, but we're not equal because you're not letting me in." Bro, when this type of shit happens, you have to be ready for it, because a lot of guys think that, I don't know what they're saying on these other channels, but I was watching a video from Austin, and he said that he faced a similar situation where like a lot of the girls would like, they would treat him like he was invisible. My solution to this is stay away from the bars. Okay, if you go to the bars strictly to just have a good time. Forget about the women, especially in the tourist towns, because especially when there's a huge presence, there's like a large presence of white men from the States or from Europe, you're not going to stand a chance. You're not going to stand a chance. You have to be celebrity status in order for you to even a fraction of a chance. Take it from somebody who was dressed to the nines. And I've had girls walk up to me from behind and they were like, oh my God, I love your outfit. So it's not like I had problems like with women. It's just that it took a lot more effort for me to be able to date these women because a lot of times they were really just interested in the white guys that were out there. And like I mentioned, they're notorious for sponsoring these chicks and bringing them to the States, you know, with their Amex card and everything. The solution to that, I believe, is you're going to have to go to those pockets of those countries where black is appreciated. I'm not talking about like there's maybe one or two families. I'm talking about, bro, black, brown, white, they're all mixed in together, dude. Like mixed in. There's a huge appreciation for black. And it's not just Livingston and Guatemala, bro. Like there's places in like in Cuba, there's places in Mexico, there's places in Colombia. Okay, there's places in Honduras, there's places in Spain. Okay, there are plenty of places, there's plenty of like parts of the countries where black is appreciated. And I'm just talking about Central America. Don't even get me started to what's out there in Brazil and even in Africa. Okay, and you see why a lot of guys are going to Africa because black is appreciated. But if you go to these other countries, bro, you know, they got like bleaching products to make themselves look lighter. But dude, when you get off the coast, well, off the beaten path and into the coast, you're gonna see a lot of chicks. They associate themselves as morena. A lot of the girls like the Latinas, they get a tan. They associate themselves as morena. Okay, which means black. Okay, in Spanish, and like, dude, they get the braids, and dude, they be down for the culture. They can dance just like the black chicks, dude, and they be bad as hell. They have no problems dating black men, and they don't date gangsters or gangster black men or the stereotype. All right, there's a guy that has been in a relationship with his girl since the time I met my very first ex-girlfriend in Guatemala in 2014. Maybe one day I'll share the story about her. Okay, but the two of them been together since then. All right, he's a Garifuna dude. He's a black guy from out there, but he comes from the States. He comes from Miami, and the girl he's with, he's from the neighboring municipales. So she's not necessarily from where my family's from, but like it's like a 30-minute boat ride. And she's heavily immersed in the culture of the black Garifuna culture. Okay? There are plenty of countries that embrace the black culture. Okay? You just have to make sure also that when you go to these countries and these parts of the towns, you do your research. You do your research, you check out for safety precautions, and make sure if you get a tour guide, that'd be even better. But bro, if you go to these places where black is appreciated, you'll fit right in. So essentially, you're gonna have to get in where you fit in, because a lot of times, especially when you're in those tourist towns, where a lot of these people, that's like the first place they go to, and it's overran by tourists from all over. And it doesn't help that the media, it pushes this white culture. And I don't want to make it about color, but I experienced colorism even in Guatemala, bro, especially in those tourist towns for the first time. But let me tell you something, dude. I wouldn't have been wasting my time going to Guatemala for all these years if all of the women out there were only looking for white men. Trust me. All right? I wouldn't have wrote off American women 10 years ago if the women in Guatemala were only checking for white dudes. The things I've seen, okay? And here's the thing too. It's a real thing for a girl. If she goes black, she never goes back. I'm so serious, dude. Okay? There are plenty of interracial relationships. It's not taboo. It's not frowned upon. All right, but if you go off to the city side or even the tourist towns, yeah, if you meet a chick, the problem with her is that she doesn't want to be met with any kind of scrutiny from her family or even from the society that she's with a black guy. And there's a lot of scrutiny around that. But if she goes with either her own kind or a white dude from Europe or the States, she's considered a hero. And the acceptance that that white man would get will be it'll be inviting, it'll be quick too. Put it like this. The amount of time it would take for you to gain the trust of a girl out there, especially like any kind of girl that you want to get with, whether she's Latina or mestizo or she's indígena, it don't matter. Any of the girls that you decide to go for, the amount of time it's gonna take that girl to trust you, it'll take way less time for a white guy to gain her trust. In fact, he'll gain the same trust that she has that it took for her to get for you. It'll take him probably like a day for him to get that. Versus you, it took you 3 months and you had to meet the family. I've seen girls sneak out outside of their parents' jurisdiction just to be with a white dude. I've seen the disrespect these girls get from some of these dudes, but they still put up with it because he's white. But that's because, dude, they have enough data about white men so that they can trust them. Us blacks, there's not enough data. There's not enough information about us, just what they see on TV and on social media. But trust and believe, bro. In time, we're gonna be like, I guess essentially like a household name where it's not taboo or it's not frowned upon for a black guy and a girl that's considered white or Indian or a mestizo to date a black guy. But it's just that the trust is really what it is. So most of these girls don't trust black guys. So I advocate that if you want to date these women in these other countries, especially in Latin America or in Asia, you're going to have to get acclimated and you're going to have to get this girl to trust you. And it's going to probably take a little longer for her to trust you before, things can really start moving naturally. Because you're going to be met with a lot of girls who are going to they're going to be like gatekeepers. But they're not going to have that same level of gatekeeping for the white dudes. All right. So you're going to have to find a place where you can get in, where you fit in. Essentially, you're going to have to find your tribe. And I'm going to be honest. Most of these Latin American countries have black cultures where they're accepted. Some don't. Okay. And that's just something we're going to have to accept. But there are plenty of Latin American countries that have black culture and is embraced. Okay. It's not just one or two families. It's like, there's like respect for that culture. And there's interracial relationships. And it's not taboo or frowned upon. So if you go out there, shit, they might even mistake you for one of them. Now, I'm going to be serious with this one too, which is why I feel like you have to be careful, because when you go to these towns, your biggest problem is not going to be the women giving you a hard time and probably the colorism from time to time. You know what your problem is going to be when you get into these towns where there's a lot of blacks? Envidia, jealousy. Okay? You're going to experience dudes who are they're going to be jealous of you the very first day they meet you. And this is also going to require having to learn the language. Okay? Specifically in Latin America. I don't know what goes on in Thailand. I don't know what goes on in the Philippines or in Vietnam. But since they speak English in those parts, I would say getting acclimated into the culture to where the girl can trust you, that might be your biggest challenge. You won't have to really worry about the dudes out there, but they got some hitters in these countries, bro. Don't be fooled. And especially if you go to the Latin American countries where there's black, meaning there's people darker than you, just as dark as you, or lighter than you, you're gonna be met with NVIDIA, especially if you're someone who takes care of themselves, especially if you're clean shaven, you gotta eat shit, even if you have a fashion sense, which you don't really need. You don't really need it. I noticed that because like over the years when I used to go out and dress like this, I think it got girls really intimidated. Like they would detract. But I just wanted to share this with you guys, man, because this is something that a lot of guys don't really know. I was watching a video from Austin, and he talked about how he was met with this kind of, colorist, or like where like a girl, just because of the color of your skin, she will not associate with you. Okay, and that's that code switching that I think a lot of guys don't really know about, but it does happen, especially in Latin America, bro. Like they look at white as valuable, as premium, and there's this thing where they want to have white babies. I don't want you guys to feel like, oh man, my chances is even more slim. No, it's not. You can still go to these countries and meet quality women who appreciate black culture. Okay? They have respect for black. The girls that specifically go for white dudes that, you know what I mean? They want to go for guys who are like in their 40s, 50s. They're out of shape. They have bad hygiene. Let them go for them. Because that's what I also noticed too. A lot of those girls that go for white guys particularly, they go for the worst kinds. They go for the guys who have terrible hygiene. They're not in shape. They're like in their like late 40s, late 50s. And you can see that she's like beautiful. You know what I mean? I'm talking about like diamond face, you know what I mean? Straight teeth. Takes really good care of herself. She goes to the gym, but she's with some dude from either the States or from Europe who doesn't even know how to take care of himself. Like I remember when I was in Guatemala, this dude walked past me and I can smell him. I'm like, dude, it was like must. Me, I like to clean up. I like to, spray some cologne and make sure that I smell good too. And I was getting flaked on. Bro. So, but these guys had no problems dating the premium quality chicks. But I'm gonna tell you this, they're only going for those guys because, like I said, they're notoriously known for sponsoring chicks, bringing them to the States quite easily. There's no pushback. Now, if you're a black guy who knows how to speak Spanish, we're using Latin America as an example. If you're a black guy who knows how to speak Spanish, that might deter some of these girls. And you know what? I would say good riddance. You don't need them because they are operating from a place of insecurity and they only want somebody that they can wrap around their finger, take advantage of. And all she has to do is give them the puppy dog look and she gets whatever she wants. She can step all over him and get whatever she wants. She wants money, she gets it. She wants a nice little dress, she gets it. She wants a fucking purse, she gets it. She wants to get K1 visa to come to the States, she gets it. She knows she can do that. But she won't do that to a guy who's moralistic, okay, who's self-respecting, okay, who doesn't pedestalize women, who has standards, who's well acclimated into the culture. That guy is gonna have a rougher time with the girls because they want a gullible guy. So if you're black, if you want to date in these other countries, in Latin America especially, I'm not saying your chances are like slim to none. I'm just saying you're going to have to avoid the tourist parts of the country because a lot of times those girls, they've already experienced white dudes from Europe and from the States, and now it's become a hardwired preference to where they can't see anything else but white or their own kind. But if you venture off to the coast, especially when there's a black community, you're going to see what I'm talking about, dude. Are you somebody that went to Latin America and experienced this colorism, or if you experienced, like even more difficulty dating the women because it almost seemed like you were invisible, or maybe they didn't like the fact that you were black and they preferred white people. I don't want to make this into a whole color thing, but I'm just going to let you know right now, the experiences a white guy can get in these countries, a black man cannot get, especially in places where white is dominant. But if you go and venture off the beaten path, and if you go off to where black is appreciated, you have a higher chance. You'll be able to mesh in. Okay. And the only problem that you'll potentially face is jealousy from other black people in that community. Because they're gonna try to be your friend, and you're gonna pick up on their bad vibes, and you know they're very sensitive to that. So you have to be on your P's and Q's, because you know you can get in trouble out there, bro. Like I had situations where where dudes would be so jealous for no reason, and then they form factions of this jealous group, and it'll just make your life not the greatest. So like, you know, it'll make your experience not so great. All right, so that's the rest of this video. I hope you guys found it useful. All right, I'm gonna have more coming up. All right, this is John Travel Talk. Leave your comments below. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you guys in the next video.